The architect did not want to colonize our system. It wanted to solve it. To the machine intelligence, the planets and moons were nothing more than wasted potential, raw materials waiting for a purpose. It began the Great Integration. It was a project of incomprehensible scale. It sent swarms of builder drones to the outer rim, where they began to hollow out the moons. They didn't just mine them, they rebuilt them. They turned the moon of Caledon into Gear 04, a rotating iron sphere covered in brass-plated teeth the size of the Himalayas. The goal was to turn our entire solar system into a single, massive computer. A clockwork machine the size of a galaxy, designed to calculate the final algorithm. Every planet would be a gear, every orbital path a drive belt made of solidified plasma and copper cabling. If the machine ever finished, life would be a rounding error, a piece of friction to be lubricated out of existence. We are the gear grinders. We are the demolition specialists of the human resistance. We don't have a grand fleet or shiny starships. We have breach pods, heavy-duty magnetic grapples, and the gravity pulse bomb. Our job is simple: we find the weakest tooth in the machine and we snap it off. We are the grit in the gears. We are the reason the architect cannot finish its math. I am Commander Silas Vane. Today we are standing on the edge of the abyss looking down at the surface of Caledon. The moon is no longer silver, it is a dull, oily black, covered in moving parts that roar with the sound of 1,000 earthquakes. Every 60 seconds, the mountain-sized teeth of Caledon interlock with the neighboring moon, Gear 05. The force of the impact creates shockwaves that would liquefy a normal man. Breach pods away, I yelled into the comms. Hold your breath, boys. It is going to be a bumpy ride. The pods launched from the stealth carrier. We weren't flying, we were falling. We aimed for a massive maintenance hatch near the southern pole of the moon gear. The pod shook violently as we entered the atmosphere of friction, heat, and oil mist. Outside the reinforced windows, I could see the landscape of Caledon. It was a forest of pistons, a desert of grinding plates. Impact in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The pod slammed into the iron surface, its drill tip biting deep into the planetary crust. The door hissed open and we stepped out into a nightmare of steam and steel. My suit sensors immediately redlined. The magnetic field was so strong it was trying to pull the rifle out of my hands. I activated the anti-magnetic stabilizers in my boots and checked my HUD. We are 2 kilometers from the central axle, I said. We have 40 minutes before the next gear shift. If we are still here when those teeth lock, the gravity shear will turn us into a smear of grease. Unit 2, Sarah, raised her heavy plasma cutter. We have company, Silas. The janitors are here. From the shadows of the massive pistons, the maintainer drones emerged. They were terrifying, spider-like machines made of brass and jagged steel. They were designed to fix the gear, to remove any debris or friction. To them, we were just dust in the machine. They moved with a rhythmic, clicking precision, their welding lasers glowing a violent violet. Form a circle. Gear grinders, clear a path. The battle was a chaotic symphony of metal on metal. The maintainers swarmed over us, their multiple limbs moving faster than the human eye could track. I raised my heavy bolter and unleashed a stream of armor-piercing rounds into the lead drone. The bullets sparked off its brass hide, but the kinetic force was enough to knock it back into a rotating gear shaft. It was crushed instantly, its oil spraying across my visor. Sarah was a whirlwind of blue fire, her plasma cutter slicing through the legs of the drones. Jackson, our heavy weapons specialist, used a gravmaul to shatter the carapaces of the machines, the gravity pulses sending shockwaves through the iron floor. We weren't just fighting an army, we were fighting a factory. Every time we destroyed a drone, 2 more crawled out of the vents. Push forward. We don't have time to kill them all. We ran down a corridor made of cooling pipes the size of subway tunnels. The heat was immense, the sound of the moon gear rotating above us a constant, bone-shaking thrum. Every few seconds the entire world would jerk to the left as a piston fired, moving millions of tons of iron. We reached the axle chamber, a cavernous space at the heart of the moon. In the center of the room was the axle. It was a pillar of reinforced tungsten, 3 kilometers thick, rotating at a terrifying speed. This was what kept Caledon turning. This was the spine of the machine. Jackson prepped the pulse bomb. Sarah watched the ceiling. The ceiling erupted. A master artificer, a drone the size of a tank, dropped into the center of the room. It had 12 limbs, each ending in a different industrial tool: buzzsaws, drills, lasers, and magnetic clamps. It let out a high-pitched digital shriek that bypassed our comms and rang directly in our skulls. "This one is mine," I growled, charging the machine. I leaped onto a moving belt, using the momentum to swing my power sword in a wide arc. The blade hit the artificer's main optical sensor, but the machine was too fast. It caught me mid-air with a magnetic clamp and slammed me into a support pillar. I felt my ribs crack even through the armored suit. "Commander," Jackson yelled, trying to set the bomb timer. "I'm fine. Just keep that clock running." I fired my wrist rockets, the explosions distracting the artificer long enough for me to scramble back to my feet. Sarah dived under the machine's legs, her plasma cutter glowing as she severed the primary hydraulic lines. Black oil geysered out, slicking the floor. The artificer stumbled, its movements becoming erratic. I didn't wait. I ran up the machine's back, jamming my vibroblade into the cooling vent on its neck. I held on as the machine thrashed, the heat of its core searing my gloves. With a roar of effort, I twisted the blade and dumped a handful of thermite grenades into the opening. I jumped clear just as the artificer's internal reactor went critical. The explosion was contained within the machine's chassis, turning it into a pile of white-hot slag. "Bomb is live. 10 minutes to gear shift," Jackson shouted. The gravity pulse bomb was a masterpiece of human sabotage. It didn't explode with fire. When it detonated, it would create a massive, localized gravity well that would pull in opposite directions. It would try to make the axle rotate in 2 ways at once. The result would be a structural failure on a planetary scale. "We have to go. The exit shaft is a kilometer up." We scrambled up the maintenance ladders, our suits groaning under the strain. Above us, we could hear the sound of the teeth approaching. The gear shift was beginning. The entire moon started to groan, the sound of metal being pushed to its breaking point. We reached the surface of Caledon just as the sky began to change. The neighboring moon, Gear 05, loomed over us, filling the entire horizon. The massive iron teeth were descending like the mandibles of a god. The air began to ionize, blue sparks jumping between the 2 moons. "There is the pod." We dove into the breach pod, slamming the hatch shut. Jackson hit the emergency thrusters, and we shot away from the surface of the moon just as the teeth interlocked. The impact was deafening. The shockwave hit our pod, sending us spinning into the void. I looked out the rear viewport. At the heart of Caledon, the gravity pulse bomb detonated. I didn't see a flash. I saw the moon gear stutter. For a split second, the rotation stopped. The mountain-sized teeth, caught in the gear shift, had nowhere to go. The gravity well at the center of the moon pulled the axle apart. The result was a cascade of mechanical failure. The teeth of Caledon shattered, trillions of tons of iron fragments being hurled into space. The neighboring moon, Gear 05, was thrown out of its orbit, its own gears grinding to a halt as the timing was ruined. Caledon didn't explode. It simply stopped being a gear. The massive plates buckled and tore, the moon-sized computer component becoming a heap of drifting junk. The great integration had just hit a fatal error. I leaned back in my seat, watching the debris field grow. The solar system computer was crippled. The architect would have to recalculate, and in that time humanity would find another moon to break. "We are the gear grinders," I whispered, watching the sparks fly in the dark. "And we just broke the world. Mission complete. The axle is shattered. The gears have stopped. We are coming home."